Hi, I'm Grierson and you're watching Phantom Music. I started actually in Australia. I was born in England, grew up in Australia, and when I was 18 I got fortunate to become a disc jockey on my little hometown station in a town that was 9,000 people. But it was an experience. I was in love with music as a fan, not as a musician. And when I got the chance to actually start at the radio station, I didn't get on the air straight away. I was able to play music in the library, and it became a full-time radio job eventually. And then I made myself the music director because I was just in love with the idea of selecting music and picking what I thought were hits. But 4 years there, and I loved it, but I knew it wasn't my calling. And so I one day said, I'm going to America. And I found out I could. It was easier to immigrate in those days. And so I got a one-way ticket on a ship and sailed halfway around the world, landed in Long Beach. I got a job in a record store, worked in the record business in the record store for a while, then was introduced to somebody who said, you know, maybe I can introduce you to a few other people that can help you get out of the record store into something that would be more inspiring. And a person introduced me to a big-time disc jockey here in LA, and they introduced me to a distributor of records, and I got my first job as a promotion man. From that I got a job at Capitol doing promotion, and then I moved up the ladder, and I went to RCA for a few years in the A&R department, which gave me I wasn't an A&R person, I was a coordinator, but I got to get a real understanding of how that side of the business worked. And then I went back to Capitol actually he hired me in the international department, and I got to travel around a lot of the parts of the world promoting and marketing our artists overseas, which was an amazing experience. And then they created a new label and said, you're now head of A&R. And I became head of A&R for EMI America, which was a Capitol subsidiary. We had an amazing run, 4 years. We were very successful. And then they took me back to Capitol as head of A&R for Capitol, and I was there for 4 more years running that department. And then I got the opportunity to go to New York and be head of A&R for Epic, which was a label at the then CBS Records, which became Sony a year and 15 months after I got there. I was there for 5 years, and I've been back here in Los Angeles basically pretty much since then as an independent consultant, and I also teach classes at Musicians Institute. I've had the great fortune of working with some amazing artists. Some I've signed, and others that were on the label. I mean, I've worked on such a broad spectrum of artistry, you know, from Celine Dion, Cheap Trick, to Tina Turner, to Joe Cocker, to Hart, to Bob Seger, you know, Duran Duran. In one way or another, I was involved with them from the A&R side. So, I mean, I've always respected the artist, because I think without the art and their creativity, there is no music business. So I've respected them, and having the joy to function in some capacity. Sometimes with like Hart, I signed them and I found songs for them and they had hits. It's always nice to have that. But other artists are self-contained, but somebody has to make sure they go into the system correctly, that everything's done right. So in one capacity or another, I've worked with, you know, some of those amazing artists, many others along the way, which has been, you know, a joy for sure, and like totally unexpected in what I thought would happen in my career. The A&R world has changed dramatically. Before the internet, A&R was the doorway into the industry, because if you didn't get signed by a label, there was pretty much, you could do independent, but it was not what it is today. And we were given the luxury of, as long as we were successful, we were given the luxury of doing what I think is important, artist development. And that's pretty much gone from the major world, because they're corporate, they've downsized, they're under enormous pressure because of the changing marketplace, and they now want immediacy. Well, I think most great artists don't work that way. They grow, and they finally find themselves, all the pieces of their puzzle, through experience, lessons learned, touring, recording, you know, hits and misses, all the pieces come together and they have that big connection with the audience and have a big career. That usually takes time. And we as an industry traditionally don't give them time anymore. So I think the artist development side has changed dramatically, unfortunately, from the major side, but it's now starting to come from the independent community. If an artist is looking to get signed to a major or a subsidiary of a major, basically you're going to have to deliver what they call a story. The label is not going to do the development, so they want the artist and anybody involved with the artist to do the development. So the labels are looking for the story, touring, hits on the websites, the YouTube hits, all of the buzz that can be created, not easy but can be created in the new digital world. When they see enough buzz going on, then they look at you, as against you trying to get in their door, they come to look at you because you've done the development, you've done, or the artist or the people involved have done the work to a certain degree. Now the labels feel confident that there is already a story established, they feel much more confident in signing. Unfortunately, I think, and there may be the rare exception, they won't sign an artist just because they truly believe that artist is talented and exciting. They want to know that there's a story behind it and around it, and that's up to the individual. The difference is that individual do-it-yourself mentality does not now have to sign with a major if they want to continue on. A good example would be Arcade Fire, a very successful independent artist that all the majors have tried to sign, and they're not going to do it. They're doing it independently. They own and control their own destiny. Adele might be a very good example today. I'm not so sure a major would have signed Adele if she was based here on the style of music, because she doesn't fit. But she was signed in England by a small independent label that had distribution through Sony. Sony had the rights to her over here, and look what's happened to her. And she's outside the box. Those are the surprises, and that's the magic of our business, because we don't really know. And to try to make all the right decisions, you put all the information you have, all the the gut and the heart and the soul, and you put it all into the think tank, and you make a decision. But we don't always make the right decision, and sometimes somebody will surprise you. Wow, we never thought it would turn out to be a monster. Who thought Celine Dion would become the superstar that she's become? She was a singer from Quebec, Canada, who didn't really speak English when we signed her. But with a great song, and I think that's always crucial, and the company did a great job, she had a superstar career, still does. It's still about identifying talent and helping them wherever necessary and however necessary, of putting the packaging, not the packaging in the sense of graphics, but the music package together so it's the best it can possibly be. Sometimes an A&R person can get very involved in that. Sometimes it's the artist who's totally got it together, but they need somebody just to smooth the rough edges out. It comes in so many forms. So there's no simple way of getting to be an A&R person. If you find an artist and that artist is great, then you're an A&R person. Then you have to find a way to get it into the system of some way. And there's two ways to do that. One, try and get a label deal, or do it yourself. Everybody that makes that decision is doing A&R.